This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean, and Andy Halliwell. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Matthew.
Yay! How excited were you on a scale of 1 to 10 about talking about yesterday's game at Ebbsfleet this morning?
Yeah, over the moon, cock a hoot.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait.
I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice, actually. Yeah.
It's like Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I very nearly started the episode off going with "They say we're young and we both know," but I didn't. No one wants to hear me sing first thing on a Monday morning, or first thing on a Sunday morning, or whenever you're listening to this podcast. Anyway, we have a fan guest. So, Andy,
do the thing. Fan guest. When was your first game?
My first game was Boxing Day 1989. We played Port Vale. I was 7 years old. And my dad took me, stood on the Chaddy Road end, and we won 2-1. And then after that, well, it's been a labour of love.
Yeah, we've all lived and breathed it just like you. What is your favourite Latics-related memory?
That is a very good question. I think in recent years, it was when I found out that the Rothwells had taken over, because it had been such a dire time. And for the first time in, for as long as I could really remember, there was that sense of positivity and, hope again, which I think we'd been missing for, almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, we might come back to hope again in a minute. Who was your first favourite player?
John Horwath. I had my 10th birthday party at Boundary Park, and then later on in the summer I got to go and meet him and the rest of the first team squad. And I actually, the other week, I was up at my parents'. I actually found the ball that's signed by the players. I've still got it. Nice. And it's in good condition, actually. It just needs a bit of air in it.
Pump it up. Let's have a kick about.
I feel like that could be a bit of a metaphor for the club at the minute or something, really. But anyway, carry on.
And give us a little unknown fact about yourself.
Well, I played American football for 15 years, which is why I'm sat here doing the podcast before I go and coach the team that I help out with down in South London. Yeah.
You are a fully fledged member of Oasis as well. I think, and you organise Oasis. Who do we sponsor as Oasis? Magnus Norman, isn't it?
Yeah. So since after the Rothwells took over, and I mentioned earlier about how that seemed to really engage everybody again, we decided to sponsor two players. So the past 2 years, we've sponsored Magnus Norman and Will Sutton. I mean, at one point we were thinking about sponsoring Jack Stobbs. So I think we could say we got away with things.
Yeah. Well, the podcast sponsor Mike Fondot, so it's not like any of us really struck gold, I don't think. But anyway,
that's number 9. Right, yeah. Who are you?
What's your name, fan guest?
Oh, sorry, James White. James White.
Welcome to the podcast, James White, or dare I say Jimmy White? Could be your slightly more informal name. I'm sure you've heard that a few times, haven't you?
I certainly have, yeah.
Well, he's known as James East Dulwich in my phone. That's what he comes up as under the Oasis group. He's for those who don't know, East Dulwich is a nice place. So he's obviously doing well for himself down here.
Yeah, I don't actually live there anymore, though.
So you're obviously from up this neck of the woods, but you moved down south. Is that right? Because you've got a little bit of a twang, I think, in the old accent there.
Yeah. So I grew up in Middleton. And then after university, moved down to London for work, and I've been here, nearly 20 years now. Yeah. So my mum and her family, they're from Shaw. My dad was born in the Midlands, but grew up down in Dorset. They met at Leeds University and ended up back in Manchester. So it's my granddad's side of my life, my mum's side of the family, my granddad who encouraged my dad to take me to watch that first game back in 1989, and here we
are Fast forward 35 years, and who you bet you never thought you'd be sat on an award-winning Oldham Athletic podcast talking about the footballing high that was Ebbsfleet away in the National League.
Did Ebbsfleet even exist as a place, 35 years ago? So, let alone a football team. But yes, it shows how far we've come, unfortunately.
Well, they were talking yesterday about what division Ebbsfleet were in when we were in the Premier League in 1992. Blah blah blah. Only the second time we've played them, and we've lost 4-1 on aggregate over those two games. We managed to score 1 goal, conceded 4, picked up 1 point. So all the prestige and history in the world means absolutely nothing when you are where you are. So did you make it to the game yesterday, James?
I did, yes. Yeah.
You were one of the 263 behind the goal.
I was. If anyone's thinking of visiting Northfleet for anything other than a game of football, I'd probably give it a hard miss. It was an interesting part of the world to visit.
Is it a new town? Is it or something?
I think Ebbsfleet itself was. I think they built like a new town by the Eurostar station, but Northfleet itself, it's just a collection of takeaways, houses, and a couple of pubs.
What happened in the pub? You told me on there.
It was one of the Oasis guys. We were all we're making our way down on the train, in groups or individually, and I think one of the guys, Mark, had got there first and got into the pub closest to the station with a couple of other guys, and he basically said, "Avoid it." And then after the game, we found another pub which was fine. And after the game, whilst we waited for our train, we did go in there, and the landlord basically said, offered to sell us anything we wanted, and then specifically someone asked us if we wanted a firearm. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, like I say, if anyone's thinking of taking a romantic trip to Northfleet for Valentine's Day, I'd probably reassess your options.
Or if anyone needs an illegal firearm, please contact James at Oasis. He now has contacts on the Kent coast, which is always handy, potentially. So, that sounds like that might have been the most exciting part of your day, because between 9 and I nearly said for the 90 minutes between 3 and, but it was actually a 5:30 kickoff. So Andy, did that kind of scupper your plans to actually make the game, the changing kickoff time?
Well, it scuppered my plans to take my kids because that means that it eats into their bedtime. So I took the option of watching it on TV at home with my lads instead of going on my own to the game. My other option was to go with the Oasis lot, which would have been an enforced 10-pint afternoon, which would have been made today impossible as well. So I thought I'd take the sensible option and watch it on the telly. And thankfully I did, because that was turgid, wasn't it? Absolutely dire watching that game of football. I mean,
James, for James, was it in any way more palatable from one static angle from behind the goal than it was from all the all the joys of TNT's multi-camera angle system?
I think it was probably worse.
It probably
was. I'm struggling to think of a single passage of play where I thought we've done all right there. We were abject. It was terrible. I mean, we've all witnessed a lot of poor performances from Oldham over the years, but that one was up there with the very worst, in my opinion. We didn't seem to have any kind of plan. If we did have a plan, the players didn't seem capable of executing it. And ultimately, in the end, I think it was only due to Hudson making some good saves that we were able to come away with a point. You've got to remember, Ebbsfleet, the number of games they've lost, the number of goals they've conceded, got a caretaker manager. Just the more you look into it, the worse it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I said before about we lost 4-1 in aggregate. They'd only won 4 games or something since, I can't remember when the commentator said it was, but one of those was against us, and they managed to score 4. it really does just echo what we were saying last week, and that's the Groundhog Day thing about it, Andy. It's just there was absolutely no identity to that performance whatsoever. It was like they just turned up. All right, there are some new players in the team, but it was like they just turned, like your American football lads. You just got them all together for the first time and said, "Right, go on, lads, go and show us what you can do." And you were turned around and went, "Okay, they can't do very much. We've got a lot of work to do." And we've heard that from Mickey Mellon over and over. Got a lot of work to do, fair enough. But at this stage in the season, having played together numerous times, bringing in what you would expect to be on paper improvements to the side, none of that seems to have had any impact over the last two games, and that's what's concerning. I'm going to see if I can just do a screen share here now when we can listen to Mickey Mellon from yesterday.
Mickey, what was your take on that point in performance?
I thought we'd have to say that we were made to battle. Clean sheet. I mean, they're the positives. Things that we want to do better, we want to pass it better, and of course there's a lot of stuff that we want to work on and to try and improve. But at the end of the day, when you look at it now, it was a hard-fought game. Two teams trying to go and get a victory at an odd kick-off time, so that was a bit that was strange for us. But you take what you can and you move on.
You mentioned maybe the quality of the passing. Is that the sort of thing that was missing in an attacking sense?
I think so. I think when we could have been better with the ball in order to try and get ourselves into better positions. I think we get it away a bit cheaply at times, or made the wrong decision. But that's something to work on next week.
A couple of important blocks at times. Was it a battle out there at times this afternoon?
Oh, it was a real battle this evening. It is late. It was a real battle. Yeah, it was a real battle. Real difficult game for both sides, both sets of players, giving it everything. And you just got to take what you get out of it. Look for the positives and then work on the things that need to get better.
James Norwood has to come off, I'll say.
I don't know. We'll see in the next 24 hours, but it's looking like it's his hamstring. So we'll have a look at that and see what the extent of that is over the next 24 hours.
When Mike Fondop came on, he was involved in a couple of chances towards the end, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's been unlucky, mate. I thought the one that he hit was in. And then had a couple of headers. So he came on and made an impact like you want your substitutes to do. He came on and had a right good go for us.
In attacking sense, Andrew Dallas and Joe Garner in an Oldham shirt. Obviously, they've been short of game time, but good to see them out on the pitch.
Yeah, it's important that we got match time under their belts and they'll improve and grow as they get to know us better.
Just finally, obviously, it's a 10-day break, which is a bit unusual at this time of year now. How are you going to look the next week or so?
We'll just use it as productively as we can. If some of the players need it for fitness, we'll use it for that. If some of the players need it for recovery, then we'll use it for that. So we'll decide how we're going to do that over the next 10 days. And again, use that as positive as we possibly can to keep ourselves going because we're coming to the business end of the season.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Alan.
Cheers, Mickey.
For me, that's the most underwhelming of Mickey Mellon's post-match interviews. I'm happy to explain why I think that, but I'd like your feedback on it first, gents. James?
I completely agree. I can only hope he's given an interview like that to kind of shield the players, and then behind closed doors is where he's going to address the issue. But he's not. It's a nothing interview. He hasn't really taken responsibility for what was a really poor performance. I think the most important thing is, yes, we've got 10 days. So he's got 10 days before our next game to hopefully work with the team and get them to start to implement whatever way he wants to play. Because yesterday there were players all over the pitch who didn't seem to know what they were doing.
Andy?
Yeah, it is underwhelming. Yeah, I mean the whole thing's underwhelming. I think try and cut him some slack. He's probably getting a bit bored of saying the same thing every week after every interview, which is there's a lot of work to do. He says that every week. I think, you can kind of feel the pressure ratcheting up a little bit on the basis that he's got a lot of his own players in there as well, and you would like to hope that we'd see improvements, and we're not seeing any. The thing that's baffling me over the last 2 weeks is the tactics. I don't really understand why we're going long ball. And and we were doing it loads, weren't we? In the first half, it would just drop into the two centre halves, Hobson or Raglan, and they'd hit long diagonals into the channels or try and hit Norwood or Garner. Now, Norwood and Garner, near combined 70-year-old strike force that we've got, are not going to be bombing down the channels, stretching the play like Josh Stones would have done when he was on loan from Wigan, because he was young and fit and fast. So I'm kind of baffled by the tactics, if I'm honest, because surely you would want to keep the ball on the floor more and try and pass through the lines. And I'm hoping that's what Conlon's about, getting the ball and being able to pass it around a little bit. But we didn't really see much of that. So that's the thing that's kind of making me scratch my head and get a little bit concerned is, I guess, the one argument is there's ways to play. We're in Division 5. We've got to keep remembering that. It's 5th Division football we're watching. It's not going to be amazing football from either side. It's going to be attritional, a bit turgid, try and grind out a 1-0. It's like, the game at Dorking we talked about last week. That was as bad as yesterday, really. But we nicked a 1-0 win. And so if you do that, it's kind of fine. You get by without too much criticism of performance. But then when you look like, yesterday, like James said, really and truthfully, they had the best chances, and Hudson pulled off 2 great saves. Hudson's been brilliant for weeks, I think, and kept us in games and saved us points quite a lot. We just didn't look threatening enough, really, did we? We didn't really create much, and so it's the tactics that baffle me. I've got to be honest. Like, you look at the signings on paper, Conlon, former captain from League One, Port Vale. You bring in Joe Garner, who's come from League One with Carlisle. They're trying to sign experience, but I was a bit. It's just a personal feeling, and listen, Mickey Mellon's forgotten more about football management tactics and players than I'll ever know. So who am I to judge? But I was a bit perplexed by the Joe Garner signing, truth be known, because he's clearly, Norwood's in the twilight of his career, but he's 33 and he's still got a burst of pace over 10 yards maybe before he gets caught up. He doesn't sustain that. Well, Joe Garner doesn't look like he's got any pace at all. He's got the dark arts bit going on. He fell over a lot yesterday and won a lot of fouls. I do wonder how many reps will cotton onto that eventually and see that he's buying them. But he wasn't particularly quick. He's not particularly tall. He doesn't win loads of headers. Why go long ball with those two up front? It was very, very perplexing, really. So, yeah, you look at the interview and, he's trying to change the narrative a little bit. It just makes you scratch your head, unfortunately.
The one thing that he's not done before, which he did yesterday in that interview, was a bit of excuses creeping in. Kick-off time. Come on, mate. If you want to be top, if you want to be on the usually, Chesterfield and Notts County, Wrexham, we're on telly all the time. You're getting 12:30 kickoffs, you're getting 5:30 kickoffs, you're on the telly, it's part of the deal, it's what you want. So don't be making excuses about the kickoff time. He wasn't making an excuse, but he referenced it when there really was no need. So that was a little bit, we've heard that before from various managers. I'm not into that. But yeah, there was no accountability from like you said, the style of play and the tactics. It just seems to have all gone out the window completely. And reference Mike Fondop, who was the one substitute who come on and you actually noticed him when he came on. Andrew Dallas came on and disappeared straight away. Like, he might as well have walked through some kind of vortex when he crossed the white line, because he just vanished. There was just it was a really, really poor performance again. No spirit. He said that there was 2 hard fighting teams. It wasn't enough spirit for me again yesterday from our boys. You've got to go there and impose yourself on them. I think in terms of Garner, I can understand why they've signed him. I think experience at this level is important. James Norwood is now presumably out injured. He was 1 yellow card away from a suspension anyway. I think when you've got a player like Conlon on the pitch who can, whip in a good ball and have a good shot on goal, it's important to win free kicks in and around. You've got to have the edge, haven't you? And we haven't had the edge. That's one of the things that we're lacking. So I'm okay with that signing. I've got no problem with it. I think at the end of the day, though, we need to get the ball to the strikers in the box. Like we talked about it last week. Liam Hogan today said on the at half time on the TV, when he was asked about what they were going to do at half time, he said, do the things that we've been working on, get the ball out wide and get it in the box for the strikers. I don't think they did that all half in the second half. If they did, they might have done it once. It was, Kitchen, again, wasn't doing what Mark Kitchen does best, which is get the ball to the byline and whip it in. It was just very, very frustrating. So we're coming to the business end of the season, like Mickey Mellon said. You'd expect us to see us improving now. We've adding quality to the team. I think what you have to think, you mentioned there about coming down from League One. You're not going to sign, unless you're offering them 10 grand a week or something stupid. I don't know what the going rate is for a League One player, but unless you're offering massive money, you're not going to be getting players from League One who are absolutely on top of the game and flying and in peak form. And, it's down to the National League. It's just not going to happen. So when you're going to sign players like this, you're signing them, I guess, with, all right, one eye and they're doing a bit of a job in this division, but also hopefully setting you up for everything you need for next season, because Conlon's clearly, he had a decent debut against Barnet, but he's not really impacted the game in the same way since. So yeah, they have to get up to match fitness. They have to blah blah blah. I guess the problem for us is as supporters is we just have to watch it and wait patiently for it to click into gear, don't we? We can address all these things. We can be as balanced as we like, and we can say, yeah, I understand that, and yeah, that's okay. We've got to be, but week in, week out, it's just a case of big sigh. Oh God, here we go again. That was another dull game of football. That's off the back of 4 straight wins, but let's not forget that. But I think if we'd have beaten Woking and Ebbsfleet and a team that's pushing for towards the top of the table should be, then we're in 4th place now. Today, as it stands, that's where we could be, and as it stands, we're 8th. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, you'd have also been 4th with 2 games down on Bromley. Bromley got beat again yesterday, so you're sort of missing opportunities. It's just a bit. The thing that I find odd is whenever we are trying to pass the ball around, we pass the ball to players in static positions. So it's always to a player's feet when he stood still. Then that player takes the touch, moves it, and passes it on to another player who stood still. There's no passing between the lines for players to run onto. There's no one's carrying the ball forward. No one's running and trying to take players on in order to take a player out and then pass the ball through the lines to someone else to run onto. It's just static football. And so because it's static,
when you say that, Andy, sorry to interrupt, but you reminded me that yesterday, Divine Green came on the pitch yesterday. Where was Ethan Walker? Was he in the squad?
He wasn't even on the bench.
Yeah,
he wasn't on the bench. Now I wonder why that is, because you talk about having somebody getting on the ball, wanting to get it forward and dribble forward, and that Ethan Walker has been that player when he's come on the pitch. He seems to want to try and get forward. Divine Green came back. He's not played for a while. Good luck to him. Hope he's feeling well and within himself. But again, limited impact on the game when he came off the bench. And you're right, Andy. There's not that kind of you have to commit bodies forward, don't you, in order ahead of the ball. if you're going to break effectively, you've got to get players. It's like you say, it's side to side. Where are the midfielders pushing on and getting ahead of the ball so that you've got someone to pass it to going forward? You're absolutely spot on. It just made me wonder then about Ethan Walker. So,
yeah, it's a good question. I have no idea where he was. There was no suggestion that he was injured in Mickey Mellon's pre-match presser. He said everyone was fit, so he's obviously just decided not to pick him, which is odd given he signed him. Ebbsfleet, who were a pretty poor side as well, had more possession where they were running at us. We didn't really run at them very much. We would just pass the ball. And what that does is when you pass the players who are not moving into static positions, you end up going backwards, which then invites that long ball pump forward to your 70-year-old strike force.
It's easy to defend, isn't it? It's easy to defend. It's easy to defend against a static player. It's very difficult to defend against somebody who's moving because you're off balance as a defender and that. And the problem is that from central midfield, that's the central. It's where you want the central midfielders to be picking the ball up and moving it forward. Hobson likes to do it. Hobson likes to get on the ball and push forward, but he tends to then run past the midfielders in doing so. So it's not really Nathan Sherron's game. Nathan Sherron's game is tackling, winning the ball, That's what he does, and he covers every inch of grass, and I like him for that. He's not great with the ball, but he chips in with some goals, and that's what he does. Again, Lundstrom, I was willing him on yesterday. Go on, Josh. When he got the ball, I wanted him to do, wanted him to show us what he's about. I wanted him to show us who we've signed, and I want him to do well. Of course I do. Conlon, same. What was the mood like in the stand, James? I mean, you've got to give credit to, I'm not the Oasis like travel, but anyone who came down from Oldham or further afield, good effort on, especially when the game's on the TV. What was the mood like on the terrace?
I think the first 10 minutes, because I think the first 10 minutes were our best part of our game. Not that it was particularly difficult, but it just went flat. It was frustrating. It was frustrating. You said yourself, we were passing the ball statically, which just gave Ebbsfleet the chance to get back into defensive shape, and we then just resorted to hitting the ball long, and it was just so predictable. As soon as we did get the ball back, we knew what was going to happen. There wouldn't be any movement up front. I think when Green came on, as I see, he's a bit of a one-trick pony, which isn't a bad thing, but he didn't try to use his pace. I mean, I know people discussed it for the whole time he's been with the club. He for somebody who's that quick, he doesn't seem to be able to beat a man or want to try to beat a man. And then the final ball is quite often lacking. I think he whipped in one good cross towards the end of the game, which we won a corner off. But yeah, it was just the atmosphere was flat because the performance out on the pitch was flat.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a long way to go. It's a long day, and yeah, you've got to be inspired as well. It's a two-way thing, isn't it? It was bloody awful yesterday. Let's be honest. It was bloody awful. The positives are we didn't concede, we didn't lose again. Ebbsfleet didn't do the double over us. But we look at, like I said, Andrew Dallas came on. I mean, having seen Andrew Dallas play a couple of times now, I don't know what he is in terms of what kind of, is he a striker? Is he a midfielder? Where does he play? Because he's not. I don't know if this is a slight on him or a slight of where he's being played, but whatever he's done, it's not had an impact. He doesn't seem to be like a midfielder. He doesn't seem to want to track and tackle and put himself about in that sense. But he wasn't being played up front either because Garner and Fondop were up top. So I'm not sure what Andrew Dallas brings to the team. Depends on where he plays. But I think, when he was asked about the question there about from Alan about what you're going to do over the next 10 days, they've got to work on how they play. Yeah, some lads have got to get fit, some lads have got to recover, but they've got to figure out who's the next home game. I'm so glad we're not playing next weekend. I'm so glad. And we're having a weekend off. There's going to be no podcast. It's forget about it. Going on. It's my birthday next weekend, so we're going to go and do lots of nice things. Forget about Latics. The next game is against who? Has anyone got that information to hand?
It's Boreham Wood on a Tuesday night, yeah. So
on the Tuesday night.
Third time lucky.
So we've got to just focus on how the hell we're going to beat Boreham Wood and how we're going to play and work on it and relentlessly. And we've got to see a drastic improvement because there's no excuse against Boreham Wood. Having got this time off and off the back of the recent displays, they've got to sort it out. They've got to show us that they're contenders. I think at the moment we're looking like if we are going to make the players, we're going to sneak in through the back door, as opposed to finish dominantly in third or fourth.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way it looks. We could just switch the conversation slightly to talk about the academy for the moment.
By all means.
Yeah, why not? Do something different. I don't know if you noticed the academy in the week. They beat Stockport 4-1.
I noticed it because you were gloating in a group that contains the Stockport lads, which which is clutching at straws a little bit, Andy, in terms of glory, I must say. But
mate, you got to use anything you've got, and I haven't got much at the minute, so that's
true.
But I don't know if you've sort of followed the trials and tribulations of the academy side, the under 18s in effect, because obviously we don't have a B team, which is something that there was a big talk about a B team, wasn't there, when David Unsworth first joined? sort of bridging that gap between the youth and the first team to get the fringe players some game time and then try and blood some of the youth. And that's kind of gone by the wayside. We've also got the concern, haven't we, that if we don't go up this year, what happens to the youth team funding? Because we don't get any funding coming from the EFL anymore. So what will be the decision on the youth setup for next season? So that's something we might want to talk to the club about at some point between now and the end of the year, depending on what happens to us in and around the playoffs. But anyway, the youth team this season, they compete in the EFL Youth Alliance League, which is split into a northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest setup. I think we've got about 14 teams in our league. But our results this season for the youth team, in August, first game we got beat 7-0 at home against Salford. Then we got beat 1-0 at Bolton. Then we drew 0-0 against Mansfield. Then we got stuffed 4-1 at home against Morecambe. In fact, we went, it took us until game 10, I think, until we registered a victory away at Walsall. We lost like most of the games or drew an odd one. But we've won 5 on the bounce now, including that 4-1 victory against Stockport. So it's definitely turned the corner. And there's a couple of lads in that youth team, if you watch a bit of the footage and you know the admin accounts put a bit of stuff out. There's a couple of lads in there that really do shine. For example, I'll give you their names. Alfie Atherton looks like he's a bit of a prospect. Seems to be like a midfielder, forward type player. And then there's a centre forward called Somti Chukwugbo, who is scoring a hatful of goals as well. And those two boys look like they've got something about them. So you probably say you need experience in trying to get into the playoffs, but you do wonder sometimes whether it would be a good idea to blood some of these kids and just see what they're made of. You know, we've obviously got some of last year's youth team, because we don't have a B team out on loan as well. We recalled one and sent them back again to Chadderton, I think. You just wonder whether, because the thing that seemed to be missing yesterday is, so I take your point about Joe Garner. He's got loads of bags full of experience. I think the thing that really surprised me is if Carlisle didn't want him anymore in League One, and if you look at his scoring record, Joe Garner's scoring record, and I've gone back to the first team again now, but he hasn't. It is relevant. He hasn't scored many goals for Carlisle in the last couple of years. He's not the goal scorer he was when he was at Preston, you know, a decade ago. Why would he be? He's pushing 36 now. So he's in there for experience, but he hasn't got the legs. And if you look at that, I keep coming back to that Josh Stones loan from Wigan. Josh Stones made a material difference because he had legs and he would run. So I just wonder whether, if we haven't got legs in the players that we've signed, why don't we blood one or two of these youth players and see if they've got legs to stretch the play a bit? Because that seems to be what's missing.
I think the thing is about bringing in youth team players is they're a bit of a curveball, aren't they? Because none of the opposition know who they are, so they're a bit of an unknown quantity. You can chuck them on, and occasionally, they can have something a bit different. I think the thing with Josh Stones is, he's 20, he was a big lad, he was very well built. I don't know what the lads that you mentioned there, I don't know what they're like, what the physicality is like and stuff like that. I think sometimes, rightly or wrongly, managers are a little bit reluctant to chuck lads in who are what they determine to be, underdeveloped physically. So I think, I will come back to a point you made earlier on, Andy, about the styles of play and things like that, and it being the National League and it being attritional. And it makes me think back to some of the performances and some of the teams that we've seen, like Gateshead, some of the performances from Wealdstone, Notts County, obviously last season. We've seen some really good football being played. We've seen Dorking play some really good football at times. It's not exclusive that it has to be a physical league. I think there's a physicality to it, but the ability to be able to play good football. There's time and space on the pitch to play good football. We've seen it, especially if you play in Oldham. We give you all the time in the world to play good football. Maybe that's part of the problem. But yeah, there's definitely merit if they're good enough. If they're good enough, they're old enough. Innit? Is the old saying. But yeah, we're coming back to that issue of, you've got to trust the manager, and you've just questioned the tactics there, which are obviously on the manager. So Mickey Mellon's been in the post. Has he been in the post long enough to question his tactics and what he's doing? Or,
no,
you know,
nobody. I mean, I'm most certainly not. I mean, Mickey Mellon's results are much better than David Unsworth's were. He's got much more experience, and he's a better manager and a better fit for us right now. I don't think there's any argument about that particularly. But the style of football isn't necessarily getting better. From one particular angle, you could say it's getting worse, but it's certainly no better. So you're sort of scratching your head, wondering about what the tactics are.
James, what was the last Latics game you went to when you thought, bloody hell, that was good. I enjoyed that performance-wise.
That Barnet home game I watched the other week was much better than and that's only 3 games ago. So
it wasn't. For me, it wasn't a brilliant performance. It was professional performance. I thought we went ahead. We contained Barnet and we did what we needed to do. We got 2 penalties at the end of the day. I'm not sure we would have scored otherwise, but it was a professional enough performance insofar as took our chances when we got them, i.e. penalties, got ahead, didn't lose silly goals and won the game. But I didn't think it was a spectacular performance, but it was good, and it was definitely good enough, and that's what you need. But away from home, James, do you get so many down south? And when was the last one you really enjoyed?
I was going to say Barnet away. So Barnet away back in November when we won 4-1, and then I remember looking at the team sheet for when we played them at home, and I think we only had 5 players who started the away game who started the game at home. Which just shows how much the team has changed. But Barnet away, obviously we got the penalty, they pegged us back. But in the second half, there was only ever one team in it. It was a great performance, not dissimilar to when we played them away last season under Unsworth. But I mean, Dorking away, that was probably, especially the second half, as bad as yesterday.
Yeah.
But as we said earlier, we nicked a goal and we managed to hang on again because Hudson made a couple of very good saves, plus they had a goal disallowed for offside, didn't they? But I mean, I think I've been to all the games down south so far this year. I've been to Boundary Park I think 4 times this season. Aldershot at home is the obvious one.
That's a while ago now.
It seems like a long time ago, but we're talking about 2 or 3 good performances.
Yeah,
and we're 2/3 of the way through the season.
Yeah, so we've had a bit of a shuffle this week, Andy. What we've transfer deadlines and all that. Joe Nuttall has gone to Cheltenham, who last I saw yesterday were losing 3-0, but they are struggling down the bottom of the league, aren't they? I think they were losing to Wickham. I think Willoughby's gone off to Ayr. Willoughby up in the air, and Dickinson's gone to Hartlepool in this league, so we've made a bit of space in the budget, I guess, to pay for the other lads that have come in. So we've lost 2 strikers there, but we now have Garner, Norwood, Fondop, Dallas, if that's where he plays, I'm not quite sure, and Alex Reid, and once we're talking about some of that stuff there, I think one of the things that just Alex Reid offers something a little bit different to what we've got in there. You've got Fondop, who's the big handful up top. Fondop likes to shoot when he gets the opportunity, but we haven't seen enough shots. I still don't think we see enough shots from Norwood, to be honest with you. Considering I know he scored 16 goals and he's the leading scorer. That's fair enough, but Alex Reid is something a bit different. And I think we'd be nice to see him fit and as an option again, especially coming off the bench, because he does cause. He's got a bit of pace. He plays on the shoulder. He likes to get away, and he will have a crack when he gets the opportunity. So there's probably still a role for Alex Reid to play. He does score goals.
Well, he's definitely going to have to come into the fold, because it looks like Norwood's going to be out for a series of weeks now, doesn't it? Because if he's tweaked his hamstring, even at the best position you'll get to, he's probably going to miss a month, isn't he? If it's a bad one, hopefully, touch wood, it isn't, then he could be out for much longer. So, you're going to end up with the wiliness of Garner alongside any combination of the others, really, probably. And so, he offers a bit of pace. Again, a bit like Devine Green is the problem with Alex Reid. I don't think Mellon fancies either Devine Green or Alex Reid, truthfully. I don't expect either of them to stay beyond the end of the season. But he's a one-trick pony. He's got a bit of pace. He'll get a few shots away. He doesn't do much else. Doesn't hold it up. doesn't tackle, doesn't track back, doesn't link up play. He's just getting behind and shoot. So try and play to his strengths and see if we can do something there, I suppose, is all we can do. But that's why I was debating some of the youth lads, That Alfie Atherton looks like he's physically, he's quite a big lad. A bit like Jake Forshaw looks like he's a bit of a big lad, doesn't he? So you just wonder whether it might be worth just chucking one or two of these boys in and giving them a go. But yeah, I'm not waking up today feeling positive about a playoff challenge.
No.
And that's the shame of it, isn't it?
It would be very frustrating if our dalliance with the playoffs was so brief. That was it. We got into the top 6 for a few weeks, and then that was it. Next week, obviously, we're not playing because Bromley are in the FA Trophy. There'll be a few other teams that are in the FA Trophy, but again, we could find ourselves even further down the table after the results next weekend, and then we've got to win that home game against Boreham Wood. And you mentioned there about the pressure. The pressure does ramp up when you're in a position of the playoffs. There is pressure. That's the expectation of the club. The expectation of the owner and the board is that we make the playoffs this season. So the pressure is there. That is what everyone is demanding, and fans and obviously the manager and the players. That's what they want. So we just have to hope that in the next week or two, things start to click a bit and players get up to match fitness, and players that have come from a higher background, higher league with a bit more pedigree show us what they're all about and prove their worth. Because just that, looking at it week in, game at a time, we haven't seen it yet, have we? So, I mean, even yesterday, James Norwood, he did get through a couple of times, and what you're hoping for with James Norwood is he doesn't need much of a chance. He gets in there and he makes the keeper work at least. And yesterday he had a couple of opportunities, didn't he, James? And he didn't manage to score.
He did. He had one at the far end, so away from where we were all sat, which he seemed to created himself. And he just seemed to, I think, what I could see, obviously no benefit and no replays. He just seemed to put it wide. And then obviously there was the chance at the end when he pulled his hamstring. And usually with him, he gets a chance, 2 chances in the game. You'd expect him to put one of those away. If he does, we're starting having a slightly different conversation, aren't we?
Listen, if we play badly and we win, I'm not going to moan about it. Well, I mean, it's like Dorking. You can only get lucky. You only get lucky so many times, don't you, when you play badly and win? It's not a reliable system of of building on a season. You can't build a season on being lucky. You can defend well and all that, but and Hudson's an important player for us. We need him to. That's his job. That's why you have a good goalkeeper. But we've got to create more. It's about creating chances. It's all very well like, oh yeah, well, we created one and we scored one, and that's 100% conversion rate, and we didn't concede. Brilliant, 1-0. But if you did that every single week, great. But we definitely don't do that. So it's. I think one of the things that Andy is there are different types of teams in the National League. Obviously, different types of teams in every division. But the teams that are good enough to get promotion and to win the league and all that, they have ways of dismantling the opposition, of playing against, the teams that part the bus, the teams that are able to, that like being on the ball. You've got to have that ingenuity, and you've got to have that flexibility to be able to break these teams down and to adapt, or to have such a solid style of play that regardless of who you play, they have to deal with you. And we have none of that at the moment. We don't have a style of play that is constantly causing other teams problems, and we don't know how to break down teams that sit back, and we don't know how to deal with teams who bomb forward. So we're definitely in no man's land at the minute in that regard.
Yeah, there's not much more to say, is there? We need some creativity. And I mean, Conlon yesterday didn't do a great deal wrong, but didn't do an enormous amount to affect the game. He sat quite deep yesterday, I thought. Didn't really get forward loads. It seemed to be the tactic was Garner will win your free kick and then give it to Conlon to put it in because he's got good delivery. First 2 free kicks and corners we had, one Conlon took, Lundstrom took, the other didn't beat the first man. So he was shaking your head, I mean, talked about Nathan Sheeran yesterday. Nathan Sheeran and what he does, what he can and cannot do. I mean, I was messaging you. We counted the first 3 forward passes he made all went to red shirt. So we're just not. There's no width. We bought Devon Green on, but he didn't do much. No Ethan Walker. Sack Dev got forward a few times, and then we come back. I was screaming at him to whip the ball in a couple of times, and he just stopped and cut back again, and it goes slow, pedestrian, pass to a static player. You just like, for crying out loud. There's loads to work on, Mickey. Get working.
Yeah, you've got 10 days. Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, talking about working, should we work James on Latics, man, and see how he gets on?
100%, yeah. Off the back of a great performance last week.
Yeah.
5. So
5 from Mike Proctor. Let's see if you can beat that, James.
I very much doubt it.
Well, you never know. Mike thought the same last week. So, but right,
I've had a lot of hits to the head with my American football. So,
right. Well, maybe they've maybe some of the things have just appropriately placed in your memory banks as a result. Right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Who knocked Latics out of the League Cup in 1990-91 and 2005-06?
Pass.
In what year did Latics introduce their electronic advertising hoardings?
2018.
2017. Up to the end of November 2023, how many hat-tricks have Latics players scored in the 21st century?
18.
12. Who scored Latics consolation in a 4-1 home defeat versus Peterborough in August 2000?
John Eyre.
Matthew Tipton. Everybody remembers Sean McCarthy's great strike at Old Trafford on Easter Monday 1994. We lost 3-2 that day. Who scored the other Latics goal?
Richard Graham.
Graham Sharp. Who was Latics' first choice goalkeeper at the start of 2013-14?
Pass.
Since getting to the League Cup final in 1990, what's the furthest Latics have been in the competition since?
4th round.
Correct. Which striker did Latics sign on loan from Stockport in January 2003?
Luke Beckett.
Ben Burgess. Who scored Latics consolation in a 4-1 home defeat to Salford City over Christmas 2019?
That was just after Bunn had been sacked, wasn't it? Pass.
To the nearest the nearest 1,000, what was the attendance at Wembley for the Littlewoods Cup final in 1990?
69,000.
74,343. So you got one correct.
I'll take that.
With two, yeah, you've not scored a 0. Few people do. With 2 passes, I'll read the passes questions out. Who knocked Latics out the League Cup in 1990-91 and 05-06? Matt?
Tottenham.
Leeds United. Who was the goalkeeper, or who was Latics' first choice goalkeeper at the start of 13-14?
That was at Stevenage away, wasn't it? When we won 4-3.
Yeah.
I can picture him. No, still can't remember.
Mark Oxley. Mark Oxley. Yeah. So there we go. You're not threatening the top end of the table. I've done the leaderboard for you, Matt. So you can get the. I'll put that so everyone knows because they hear it now. You can get the graphic out with the leaderboard on this week, can't you?
Okay. Yeah, I'll put it out there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, last week's performance, I felt a little bit buoyed after. I was like, "Yay!" But unfortunately, James, your performance was just as damp a squib as yesterday's match. So
it's a fair comment.
We're back to that feeling, unfortunately. So no podcast next week, so we don't have to endure no football, so no podcast because it's nice to have a break. We'll be back for the phone-in on the Wednesday, which will be directly after not directly after, but the night after the Boreham Wood game. So that should be fun. We will see how we get on there. When are you guys next up? Have you got your eye on a Boundary Park game?
I know, obviously, we've got Maidenhead away on the 17th, so that's a nice, easy one to get to. And then I'm possibly going to be at the Kidderminster game on the 24th. So, hopefully between now and then, we get a good result against Boreham Wood. And as we've all alluded to, Mickey does some work with them, gets things sorted out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm planning on getting down to Maidenhead. And then York. I've got my York ticket. So we've got a few games where, Kidderminster, I mean, you're looking at that now. It just means nothing, does it? I mean, based on the performances against the teams, there's absolutely no point. In some ways, I'd rather we were playing Chesterfield, Bromley, and bloody Barnet again. Not going to play them 3 times, ideally, because we've beaten them twice. But we're playing teams that you look at and think, yeah, we should win. But Kidderminster had a win yesterday, didn't they? I think. And
what's his face?
Brown. Steve Brown.
Yeah.
He's turned them around. They're on a bit of a run now.
Yeah. So it's completely unpredictable. It's one game at a time. But we're playing Boreham Wood the day before Valentine's Day at Boundary Park. So let's hope for a little bit of love and a bit of romance. We can all hug the person next to us and give them a kiss because Oldham have comfortably got 3 points. And then you can all phone the phone in on Wednesday, all happy. And we'll take that euphoria to Maidenhead the following week. So lots and lots and lots to look forward to. Thanks, James, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So your team playing this morning, your American football team?
We're playing this afternoon. So, once I finish this, I'll go and join them all on the sidelines and, start my coaching.
Well, I'm sure that having been on this, scoring 1 on Lattice Mind and reminiscing yesterday's got you all fired up.
Yeah, hopefully, we can get something out of the weekend.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you and your team. Andy, I'll see you. Oh, fire alarm. Get out, James. Andy, I'll see you on the 17th. If I don't, I'm sure I'll talk to you before, but enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you for the phone-in on Valentine's Day. All right. Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics football phone-in every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.